you doing?
Are we ready, Bianca? $7 o'clock.
Maybe Rishi.
Do it. I would like to call the Monday, April the 14th, 2025 Common Council meeting to order. Clerk Toronto, I believe you would like to make some comments regarding the link for this meeting and other expectations.
Good evening, members of the public. For audio quality, we will be muting everyone not speaking by default to maintain good audio quality for council members and yourself. If you would like to speak during the meeting on a certain agenda item or during privilege of the floor, please submit your request in the chat. Directions to do so will be listed. We ask that you provide your full name, address, and topic you are speaking on, as those are required for all speakers at in-person council meetings. If you would like to be called on during the meeting to provide public input, please insert the following into the chat and you will be called on during the relevant time for public input. My name is full name and I live at address, and I would like to speak on for or against agenda item. You will then be given 5 minutes to speak. Please be sure to unmute yourself prior to giving your remarks. Thank you.
All right, is Pastor David Troxel here tonight? All right, well, I guess I will have to step in. Bow your heads with me. Gracious and sovereign God, we come before you today seeking your wisdom, guidance, and strength as this body gathers to serve the people of South Bend. We acknowledge the weight of decisions made in this chamber, knowing that they will shape the lives of not only those who call this city home today, but for all of those, all the generations to come. Grant each council person the wisdom to lead with both their hearts and their heads, balancing compassion with reason, conviction with understanding, and may they govern with integrity, humility, and a steadfast commitment to justice and righteousness. Let their debates be marked by respect, and their actions by fairness, and their policies by a deep concern for the well-being of every citizen, young and old, rich and poor, in South Bend. Bless us with the courage to make difficult choices, the discernment to recognize what is truly best for the people, and the endurance to serve with excellence. And may our leadership reflect the values of service, unity, and hope, creating a future that is brighter, stronger, and more just for all. We ask for your divine protection over this assembly, over our families, and over all those who labor for the good of this community. And may South Bend continue to be a place of opportunity, prosperity, and peace. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Clerk Toronto, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Present.
Councilmember McBride,
Present.
Councilmember Warner,
Present.
Councilmember Bolden Simpson,
She's absent.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Present.
Councilmember White,
Present.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Present.
Council Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Present.
Council President Lee,
Present.
8 council members present.
All right, thank you very much. We will now have a report from the Subcommittee on Minutes for March 24th, 2025.
To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the March 24th, 2025 meeting of the council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved.
Move to accept the minutes.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, call the roll. Oh, we're not all here. Okay. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember McBride,
We can do a acclamation.
Can we do acclamation? Oh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Sorry, I thought because Sherry Bolden Simpson wasn't here in person, we had to. All right, let's move on now to report from city offices. We have a redevelopment commission report for 2024. Let's welcome Mr. Caleb Bauer.
Good evening, council members. Caleb Bauer, Executive Director of Community Investment, offices on the 14th floor of this building. Tonight, I am presenting to you the 2024 TIF Management Report. This is a statutorily required report to be presented to council on an annual basis before April 15th. It's accompanied by the upload of the data contained in this report onto the Indiana Gateway, which was uploaded earlier today, about the TIF districts managed by the South Bend Redevelopment Commission. So I'm going to talk through a little high-level overview of the Redevelopment Commission, what tax increment financing is, just a quick refresher, and then I'll take you through the 2024 numbers in the districts and talk through what that looks like. Please feel free to interrupt me as I go, but this should, I'll try to go relatively quickly. I know you're all familiar with the gist of the districts and the commission. But as you know, the Redevelopment Commission manages the TIF districts. There are 5 voting members and 1 non-voting member. 3 of the voting members are mayoral appointees, 2 are council appointees, and then there is a non-voting school board appointee. So here are the members as they stand today. The commission was created in 1956. Its general duties include investigating, surveying, and studying areas in the city that need redevelopment, some selective acquisition of areas needing redevelopment, and then combating the factors that cause areas to need redevelopment. Those are the general duties of its founding. Since then, it has become the primary vehicle by which we utilize tax increment financing to support redevelopment activities throughout the city of South Bend. The TIF is a tool that is used to capture incremental growth in assessed value over time, growth generally caused by investments, economic development investments within a given area. And so we do that in the form of physical geographical districts. We call them TIF districts. They're technically called economic development areas. And those districts, when they're established, we set a base assessed value at the date of their establishment. Anything above that base assessed value that is adjusted on an annual basis is captured as increment, and that increment becomes dollars that could be appropriated by the commission for reinvestment in activities to redevelop a given economic development area. I can just walk through an illustration of how that works. If we were to form, when we formed the River West Development Area in 1990, if there was a theoretical company, the Acme Company, and their assessed value in 1990 was $8 million, we would set the base assessed value at $8 million in that year. Then by 2024, that assessed value has grown to 14 million. So the $6 million in difference there is incremental assessed value. That is the taxes from that incremental assessed value are governed and appropriated by the Redevelopment Commission. all the other taxes of the 8 million original assessed value continue to go as they would normally to the different taxing entities. I will note, it's not a complete straight line on the base assessed value. There's something, a complex formula called TIF neutralization, which attempts to back out overall macroeconomic market activity from that base assessed value. So the base assessed value actually does gradually go up in a given year. What we're doing in TIF neutralization is we're saying, aside from the broader macroeconomic factors that cause assessed value to increase, what's happening within this neighborhood, within this area that is causing the AV to go up, that's the incremental AV. And that's a complex formula that our municipal finance advisors assist us with on an annual basis. So here is that shown, the incremental tax revenue in green versus the base tax revenue. Then at the year that a district expires, generally 30 years from its establishment, though we have a few districts that have lasted longer than 30 years because they existed before that 30-year lifespan was set by the Indiana legislature. After that 30 years expires, everything goes back to the way it was before. It's all now base tax revenue. It's distributed normally to the different taxing entities. If we were to go back to that time, or if we were to establish a new district at this 30-year mark, we would be establishing a new base assessed value rate. And then going forward, the green would only be up from there, if that makes sense. So what are the eligible uses of tax increment financing? Publicly owned infrastructure improvements, streets and utilities, publicly owned capital projects like parks, city-owned facilities like community centers. We can also use it for professional services, so architecture, engineering, environmental professionals. Typically, those are related to those projects themselves. We can also use TIF funds for some supervisory expenses. So the city staff that staff the redevelopment commission, we use some TIF funds to offset a portion of their salaries from the city general fund. And then capital projects of private entities in furtherance of economic development or redevelopment purposes in the district. So that is generally in the form of a development agreement where the redevelopment commission is assisting with a economic development project. There are private investment commitments, things like that. And so that's one of the ways that the RDC uses TIF. The development agreements, that's a contract between the commission and a private entity. That contract includes commitments, and the redevelopment commission's commitments are still procured through the Board of Public Works. So even if the redevelopment commission says we're going to improve the sidewalks outside of this facility, that is still bid through the Board of Public Works. Even if the dollars are appropriated, they're still governed by the city and the city staff. Ultimately, the final work product would be for the benefit of the developer, though. Those generally have clawback provisions for developers that would fail to meet those contract terms. I know we've discussed some of those historically. So that's development agreements. Then there's budget requests. These are for publicly owned projects. This is when staff would request a budget appropriation from the commission for a public project, streets, streetscape improvements, park improvements. And again, that work is procured via the Board of Public Works. In that case, there is no legal agreement because the funds are being used for a publicly owned asset, and it will continue to be a publicly owned asset. And then third, a newer tool, one that came before you a few meetings ago, which is a project-based TIF. So this would be a financing tool to provide upfront net proceeds from a bond issuance for a private development. It would utilize the tax increment from that development. So the new taxes we know are coming to support that financing. So we're issuing a bond upfront using the new tax, the new growth in tax increment in the future, and committing that to fund the debt service on the bonds. And then we're placing the risk for that debt service onto the developer. So instead of the city's, generally, if we would issue bonds for, say, stormwater or water utility bonds, those are the city's obligation. Sometimes they might have what we call a property tax backup, which is to say, if the revenue stream used to finance that debt could not be met, we would consider a levy to meet it. We've not had to do that. But in this case, in a project-based TIF, there is none of that. There's no property tax backup. There's no obligation to the city at all. The developer would carry the risk for making those debt service payments if the taxes came up short. So we've used that once in the J.C. Hart development project, and we're grateful for your support of that. That's a tool we are really interested in looking at, especially on bigger projects. You do have origination costs for bonds, things like that. So it really needs the right scale for it to be a viable tool. But it's a great tool because in a world where the developer defaults on their obligations, that's an issue between them and the bondholders. And so there might be litigation that plays out. What's nice is the city is not at risk. The city doesn't have to become embroiled in that. And ultimately, the developer carries the risk. So that's a tool we're looking at, a great tool to have in our toolbox. Obviously not one we're going to use on every agreement, but definitely one that we are considering going forward. So let's get into the numbers. These are the districts, and I can run you through where they're located. So starting on the west side of the city, the River West development area is shown in orangish salmon color. This is the largest by parcel count and by area, 7,385 parcels. It was established in 1990. Before that 30-year end date existed for a tax increment financing district, and it will expire in 2037. Then in light blue shown within the River West development area is the West Washington development area. This is the oldest development area, still active in the city, established in 1987. It's got 1,152 parcels on the West Washington corridor. That one expires this year. Because tax payments are made a year in arrears, we will continue to receive revenue through June of 2026 in the West Washington development area. Then we have the South Side development area shown in pink, magenta on the south side. This is at 1,615 parcels established in 2002, and it will expire in 2032. And then there's in green, the River East development area, 3,000 parcels established in 2003 and expires in 2033. Within that area is shown a yellow outline. It's a special allocation area within the River East development area that can capture residential increment. So the increment that's being captured in these districts generally is for commercial properties, those that have a 3% tax cap, and for multifamily properties, those that have a 2% tax cap. You and me, if we're homeowners, we have a 1% tax cap. We're a residential, single-family residential property. Those are not captured in a TIF district. All of the taxes from those properties go, as they normally would, to the different taxing entities, except in a special residential allocation area, which does exist in that yellow outline in the River East area. And I'll talk a little bit about that at the end here. But so that's a smaller allocation area within the River East development area. And then there's two very small ones, the Douglas Road development area on the far northeast side in light blue there, and then the new Riverwalk development area, which was established recently because of your authorization. It's just one parcel on the west bank of the river opposite Howard Park. That's the one, the project-based TIF specifically related to the J.C. Hart development. Overall, 13,556 parcels are part of economic development areas and would have incremental assessed value captured in those areas as they stand today. So let's talk about the areas and how they performed last year. 2024, the end of 2024, fund balances across the areas was $70.8 million. You can see they reflect the size of the areas as well. So River West development area is the largest revenue generating area, also the largest footprint. Then you can see River East development area is the fastest growing area as far as incremental assessed value, shown in light blue. River East residential, which really encompasses most of the Eddy Street Commons area, also has been very fast growing. That is an area of the city where we see some of the highest assessed value per acre. So when you think about density and the value per acre that it generates, we see similar to downtown that AV per acre in the Eddy Street Commons area. And then the South Side development area, which has also seen significant growth in the last few years as far as revenue. So let's look at historically the fund balances from 2019 to 2024. So you can see at the end of 2019, we were right around $55 million, just under $55 million as far as all of the funds combined, all of the development areas and the total cash on hand combined. Taking that up to 2024, we're at just over 70 million. So you can see just from a cash balance standpoint, we've seen growth. You can also see we did go down a little bit in cash balance from 2023 to 2024. And you'll see why, which is we intentionally spent down some cash reserves that had developed, particularly in the post-COVID environment, where things were a little slower. There weren't as many economic development projects moving. And so we had accrued over a couple of years, we had accrued a lot more cash than we had spent. And then 2024 came around. We do have a lot of activity. Strategically, we wanted to spend some of those reserves down because ultimately, unlike the city general fund, where we want to maintain significant healthy reserves because those are necessary to fund core governmental operations and core services, in the development areas, these funds do not fund any core services. So the goal of them, in my opinion, and generally in the state legislature's opinion when they created this tool, is that we should be spending the money out in the community, flywheel effect of making smart investments, those investments growing the incremental assessed value, turning around and doing that again. And then at the end of that 30 years, all of the taxing entities share in that tool being used to spur significant growth within the economic development area. So that's where we look at the River West development area. And you can see this is one area that we've been particularly aggressive in. And I'll talk a little bit about what some of the expenditures were in 2024. But you can see cash growth. We did spend down some of those reserves. Still at the end of the year, 27.5 million, north of 27.5 million remaining in the River West development area. And just for context, debt service obligations in River West on an annual basis are $6.8 million. So you're still looking in a very good position at the end of the year as far as the total cash on hand. Here's the South Side development area. Again, an area where we had built up over time more than $15 million in cash reserves, and we've spent that down to about the 2019 level. River East development area is a different story. You can see how much growth we've had in cash in this area, going from just over 5 million in 2020 to having over 20 million in cash on hand at the end of 2024. Part of the reason for that is this is a relatively constrained area. And so you don't have as many projects coming down the pipeline in a smaller footprint. We will be, looking at some projects that relate to the River East development area. But I think it's a good thing to have more funds at our disposal. Really, our focus has been, the commission's focus has been a lot in the River West development area because we are seeing so much opportunity for growth there, whereas in River East, growth is happening a lot more organically, especially areas around the university. There are projects happening. The Toll Brothers 87 project is one I like to talk about, hundreds of new student housing units, market rate, didn't require any incentives at all, nothing. And so that all of that incremental assessed value is being captured but it didn't require any expenditure to unlock, unlike in other areas of the city where we're still working to build up the market, where we would need to be involved in a deal potentially to make a project pencil out and go forward. Here's the River East residential development area. Again, good growth in the cash balance. West Washington development area, you could see we had built up some cash balance. We have spent some of that down. A portion of West Washington development area assisted with the King Center project, construction project, and then as well looking at some environmental work in the neighborhood there. Douglas Road development area, again, a very small geography, just under $1 million in cash on hand at the end of 24. So if we look 23 and 24, you can see in 2023, our revenue was $40 million across all of the districts. It grew to $55 million in 2024, and we expect it to grow at similar rates this year. Beyond this year, I'll have to get back to you because we are still unpacking the impact of the property tax bill at the state legislature, that the state legislature is looking at and likely to pass. So at least for this year, we expect similar levels of growth. We may see some flatlining. I don't expect us to see hugely significant drops in TIF revenues. That will likely hit the city harder on the general fund side, where you are looking at those single family residential revenues really contributing significantly to the general fund. And so I'm sure we'll have more conversations about that in the future. But you can see in 24, we did spend a little bit more than we generated in revenue. Again, like I said before, that was intentional. That was because of the cash reserves that had built up in some of the districts and wanting to spend those down, get those out into the community, generating new incremental assessed value. And like I said, the River West development area was the big one where we've made a number of strategic moves, primarily on real estate acquisitions would be the difference from a normal year. We did a number of major acquisitions in 2024. I like to say redevelopment commission property is cyclical. So you would have a disposition phase where the commission has a lot of good large format properties. We're trying to get them developed. And I think we were in that position in 2021, 2022. We've got a lot of great projects going on those. And then last year, we really were thinking about what is the next set of areas we want to focus on. So you think about the River Glen Office Park on the river, you think about the Portage Elwood Shopping Plaza. Those acquisitions occurred in 2024, and those are quick ways to get cash out the door. If you think about how we're reporting this, you close on a property, that check is out, versus if it's an infrastructure project, you're paying for it over a period of time as it's being built. And here's West Washington and Douglas Road. So in 2024, expenditures across all districts, 60.6 million. Of that, 39.6 in capital outlays. That would be in physical projects, 16.3 in services and charges. So that could be consulting services. That also includes our property acquisitions. And then debt service, 4.6 million. So if we go through all of the expenses across the districts in 24, like I mentioned, the major capital outlays were in buildings, infrastructure, land acquisition, services and charges were in some interfund transfers, demolition and clearance, and other professional services. So we do include demolition costs in professional services, especially when we're dealing with properties like the Drury site where we have environmental requirements to be met. So that's a specific bid specification that we're looking for. Cumulative assessed value across all the districts has grown significantly since 2019. So if you look here in 2019, our cumulative assessed value, so the blue base assessed value plus the incremental assessed value, was 1.2 billion in assessed value. And then that's gone up to just over 1.7 billion in assessed value. So that's not tax revenue, that's just overall cumulative assessed value. The same can be said in River West. You could see good growth over the last few years there. South side, we've seen very significant assessed value growth. River East development area, even more so. You could see pretty dramatic increase. River East residential, less dramatic, but you think about, if you look at in blue where we started, most of River East residential is the Eddy Street Commons area. So that district was established when nothing was constructed there. So almost everything in the district is incremental assessed value. You can see how small the base assessed value is there. West Washington development area, Douglas Road development area. And that is high level where things are at for the year. I tried to move as quickly as I could because I know there's always questions. I can jump back. But that's where things are. I will say for 2025, we don't expect to be at the same level of expenditures, certainly not on property acquisitions. That is, we're pretty buttoned up there. I think the State Theater is the last one we will see for quite a while, aside from maybe smaller neighborhood scale, tax sale type infill development acquisitions, but not those large format properties that we're looking at, major redevelopment projects.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bauer. At this time, council members, you can ask a question. We'll start with Councilwoman Sharon McBride.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the thorough description and recap for us. Question it for the sake of the viewing audience. Can you discuss a little bit, West Washington is set to sunset, you said in 2025. What happens when that sunset?
Yeah, so it will sunset later this year, and then there will be one remaining year of arrears tax payments, so 2 more payments. So by June of 26, we'll have received our last distribution in the West Washington area. Then that area would cease to exist and a new base assessed value would be set. Right now, we're working through what we may do is take a portion of that area and put it into the River West development area. So that would set a new base rate for it going forward, starting in the year that it is absorbed into River West. But it would also allow for River West development area revenues to be utilized within that footprint.
Well, to piggyback on that, is that something that is decided based on the need, or is there any input from like the West Washington neighborhood, or if you will, like what's needed in that area, or if it sunsets, you all recommendation, to council is that we transfer, or that, for instance, could end the West Washington TIF and you could move it somewhere else if that's a recommendation, or the some.
Oh,
portion
we
of that
would
stay.
we would use the remaining revenues within the that area. So any remaining distributions left, which.
But it can renew that, and that's just an example. It can renew in the same location
You could,
after sunset.
you could renew a district in its existing footprint. You'd still set a new base rate. As you've seen, our districts have become consolidated and larger over time. If we go over to the city of Mishawaka, they have one single consolidated economic development area that covers, I think, close to half the acreage of the city. So that's more of a strategic question of, my opinion is, if we're doing a good job with neighborhood plans, we're doing a good job understanding what neighborhoods want us to see and those implementation matrices that we lay out and those which show the short, mid, and long-term goals, then having a larger district with more resources that can allow us to make sure we're delivering on those commitments in the different neighborhoods as we do those planning processes. That's kind of my view on it of how it works well. As well, we're looking at a few other newer tools. There are new districts called single family residential economic development areas. You can establish them as a individual allocation area that would capture the single family residential incremental assessed value. And so in areas where we believe we will see significant single family residential growth, which I would argue would be areas near, for example, the King Center, where we already have a few projects moving forward, we would want to potentially try and capture that so that we can reinvest it into the neighborhood, both in existing housing stock and in new housing stock.
Second question, how many existing entities do we have clawbacks on currently?
Virtually every development agreement we enter into has a clawback provision, so that
Yep.
one that would be executed in case of default. How many are we actively working?
That we
with?
have clawback?
One.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman White,
No, I'm fine.
Councilwoman Sheila Nasowski.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you for your report. Do you ever foresee the possibility of TIF, some of the TIF funds being assessed any kind of fees or to help with some of the infrastructure such as fire trucks or any kind of maintenance that helps take care of these areas? I know the general fund is responsible for all of that, but since we have such a large part of our city that is under TIF, do you ever foresee that we could utilize some of the areas to help offset any particular fire trucks or police cars or any of our public safety that helps to protect these same areas, because we use our general funds to deal with our public funds in these areas. And so as they continue to grow and help out, do you know of any other cities? I remember several years ago that something like Valpo, I think, had used some of the TIF funds to buy some police cars and things like that. What are your thoughts?
So we do routinely utilize TIF funds to assist in the development of new fire stations. So virtually all the new rebuilt or redeveloped fire stations that have occurred over the last 10 to 15 years, most recently Fire Station 8 on Twickenham, those were financed using tax increment financing dollars. So in Fire Station 8's example is actually entirely using TIF funds to fund that construction project. So that's not vehicles, but that was capital improvements to benefit the fire department and make sure that we had, good facilities going forward for our firefighters. So that's one example. A couple of years ago, 2 years ago, the state legislature did create the ability to utilize TIF for some public safety services. So that is now an allowable use. And that's something we will consider as part of, the broader administration strategy as we respond to the coming property tax scenario that we are still working to fully understand. So I would say it's not something that is ruled out in any way. As well, the one other thing I would add is you mentioned vehicles. I don't know if vehicles would be eligible, but I do know you could offset, for example, salaries now are allowable offsets. That's generally not something we've done, but we have done the capital improvements to benefit the public safety as well. In that new type of development area, the single family residential TIF, which was established a number of years ago, criteria have changed. A bill that will be approved by the legislature likely in this session would add that 5% of the revenues in one of those new single family residential allocation areas, 5% of those revenues automatically go to police and fire.
Okay.
So that starting in June of this year. So that would also be a provision that would be part of it. If we were to establish a new one of those areas, we'd have a built-in funding mechanism for public safety.
Which does help in some form, in some fashion, decrease what we would have to have paid in our general fund from that standpoint.
Correct, yeah.
I appreciate your comments. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Phil, you good, Rogers? Troy? Vice President? Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Bauer, we appreciate it.
Thank you so
very
much.
All right, now, I will now entertain a motion to resolve into the committee of the
I'll
whole.
move.
There's been a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
Motion passes.
The committee of the whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council's meetings where bills are given a second reading and public hearing before a committee made up of all 9 council members, although we only have 8 this evening. All bills are set for second reading and public hearing have previously been given a first reading and committee hearing prior to this evening's meeting. In addition, we will hear from the chairperson of the standing committee where the bill was discussed and the results of that discussion. Clerk Torado, can you please give Bill 06-25 the second reading?
Public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for property located at 411 Cottage Grove Avenue, Councilmanic District Number 1 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis, is there a committee report?
Yes. The Zoning and Annexation Committee met, Mr. Chair, this afternoon, and we bring this bill to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And our staff member, I ask you state your name and address and share with us the key points of the bill. Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Thanks. Skip Morrell, Principal Development Planner with offices on the 14th floor of this building. As stated, this property is located at 411 Cottage Grove Avenue. Owner is VIP Flip LLC, and the requested action is a special exception to allow construction of a duplex. This is the site as it exists now. It's currently a vacant lot. And as you pull back a little further, you can see, again, in the surrounding area, several vacant lots. So, this is the proposed site plan. And the proposal is to utilize one of the city's pre-approved stacked duplex models for new construction on the site. Building a new duplex would add more residents to the neighborhood, which would improve the safety and general welfare of the community. Again, this is new construction. It's also consistent with the scale and built form of the surrounding area and utilizing a pre-approved model that really matches kind of the built form of that neighborhood. This is consistent with the South Bend Comprehensive Plan, Objective H1, which encourages residential units to develop with a mix of housing types, densities, price ranges, and amenities. And this comes to you from the Board of Zoning Appeals with a favorable recommendation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have a petitioner available?
I believe the petitioner is online.
Would our petitioner like to add anything?
I'm online. I'm here. No, that's fine. That's all they need to be said.
Okay, great. Thank you. Council members, any initial or preliminary questions at this time?
So at this 411 College, is this gonna be a duplex, right?
That's right.
And
yes.
how many just, is it a double or,
Right. It's just going to be one unit on the bottom floor and then one unit above.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Thank you. You mentioned this in committee that this was your first project in South Bend. Could you share a little bit of a little more of your development experience, if not in South Bend, elsewhere?
I mean, it's my first development from zero, but under my belt between the Mishawaka, South Bend, and Elkhart, I have 9 properties that I have rehab and flipped and sold over a period of 3-4 years. So, I mean, I have experience, but from zero, this will be my first one. And that's why I'm here and learning all these things. But I have many contractors that have a lot of experience also. So I think it won't be any issues in terms of like experience at all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll go to the public hearing portion. Members of the public shall have their opportunity to address the council, beginning with members of the public in favor. Do we have any members of the public in person or online who would speak on Bill 0625?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor of the bill.
Any members of the public wishing to speak against Bill 0625 in person or online?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition of the bill.
Thank you. With that, we'll close the public hearing. I'll bring them back to the council. Any final comments or a motion?
I just want to say thank you to the developer for building in the first district, and I hope that you will buy up more of those lots and build more duplexes in this area.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much.
Motion?
I would like to make a motion that we send Bill 0625 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
We got multiple seconds and a motion for a favorable. Clerk Toronto, can you please do the roll call?
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. With that, 0625 will go forward to the full council with a favorable. Clerk Toronto, can you please give Bills 1525 a second reading?
Public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 1335 Corby Boulevard, Councilmanic District Number 4 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. Unless anybody has an objection, I'd like to hear Bill 1525 and 1625 jointly.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we will hear both those bills jointly. And Clerk Toronto, so can you please give Bill 1625 a second reading?
Public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 1253 Corby Boulevard, Councilmanic District Number 4 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. Mr. Morel, I hope that's okay. I wanted to save our petitioner from making two separate trips up to the podium.
But before we hear from him,
Yep. Okay, do I have committee report?
that's me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our zoning and annexation heard both of these bills today, and we bring both bills to you with a favorable recommendation from the state of Ohio.
Thank you. Mr. Morel.
Skip Morrell, Principal Development Planner, with offices on the 14th floor of this building. I'll show both projects. In both cases, these are new construction of duplexes on what are currently vacant lots. So you can see here the first one for 1335 and kind of an aerial shot. And then as you move a little further, this is the site plan and the elevation there. And then for 1253, a few parcels to the west, similarly a vacant lot. This area and the elevations there. In both cases, these duplexes kind of match the built form of the surrounding area. They would be new construction of duplexes on vacant lots, introducing a mixture of housing types, which is consistent with the South Bend Comprehensive Plan. Both of these parcels are also located in the Northeast neighborhood, and the Northeast neighborhood plan identifies an objective to develop the production of a range of housing types through new construction as well as redevelopment. So it's again in line with both of those city goals, and both come to you from the Board of Zoning Appeals with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Our petitioner, let's go. Anything you would like to add? And we just need your name and address, please. Thank you.
Hello, Alyssa Gonzorek, 7821 Morse Road, Columbus, Ohio. I don't really have anything further to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council members, any preliminary initial questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the public hearing. At this time, members of the public will have the opportunity to address the council. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak in favor of either Bill 1525 or 1625 regarding the duplexes?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online that wishes to speak in favor of either bill.
Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak against either Bill 1525 or 1625 regarding duplexes on Corby Avenue?
I do not see anyone from the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition of either bill.
Okay, with that, we'll bring it back to council. Any comments? Any further questions? I would just like to say thank you for your investment and welcome here to South Bend and we hope you're successful. Thank you.
I'd like to move that we send Bill, which one are we at? 1525 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion regarding Bill 1525 and a second. Clerk Toronto, could you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
1525 will go forward with a favorable recommendation. At this time, can I get a motion on 1625, please?
Move for passage.
Move for passage.
And I second.
I'm going to take that motion as one that would send forward with a favorable recommendation, but I know what you mean. Clerk Toronto, can you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
All righty, thank you. Clerk Toronto, can you please do a second reading on Bill 1825?
Public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 1701 Hickory Road, Councilmanic District Number 4 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Yeah.
It's me again.
I did not
Uh,
intentionally forget about you.
I'm at peace. The zoning annexation met and we heard this bill also today. And we bring this bill to the full council for, with a positive, recommendation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Morrell.
Skip Morrell, Principal Development Planner with offices on the 14th floor of this building. We're looking at 1701 Hickory Road. The owner is Eastside Baseball and Softball Association. And we're specifically looking, so this is kind of a view, looking at it from the east. Another view of that parcel, kind of a pulled back view. And then the area we're specifically talking about today is this area here is broken into two parcels. Kind of parcel highlighted in orange is zoned S1, Suburban Neighborhood 1. The area surrounding that is OS, open space, and VPA owned parcel. But specifically looking at the S1 zone parcel, the two requests, one is a special exception to allow for the use as park and open space. The second is a use variance to allow for an indoor entertainment and recreation facility in an S1 zone parcel. First, looking at the special exception, the site is currently utilized for sort of the outdoor kind of park space. It's used as baseball fields. Because there's going to be modifications to it, we're now formalizing that use in the S1 zoning district for park and open space. It is contextually appropriate and sort of ties into a broader project utilizing the space for baseball fields. Second, looking specifically at the use variance would allow for an indoor recreation facility. This would be used as an indoor baseball field. Again, this development is consistent with the surrounding uses and kind of the built form. So you can see from that pulled back view there along Hickory Road, there are a number of similarly used sites just to on the east side of the road, the racquetball and the Adventureplex. So again, this would be consistent with the use and design of the surrounding area. And both the special exception and use variance come to you from the Board of Zoning Appeals with a favorable recommendation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Our petitioner. What would you like to add?
Good evening, Angela Smith with Dan Charner and Associates. Office is located at 1643 Commerce Drive. Thank you to staff for the presentation. This project is a really exciting time for East Side Baseball and Softball Association. They've had a lease with the Parks Department for quite some time, and they're now looking to improve what are right now basically practice fields that often hold water into something that they can use as a much more active use. Prior to 2020, they would have been allowed to do the outdoor portion with no special approvals. But there's now the requirement for the special exception. The indoor portion is only an opportunity after 2020 because use variances weren't allowed before. So we're actually kind of excited about this. In the past, this would have been a rezoning in order to do this kind of facility. But we're here before you this evening to look at a use variance for the indoor facility, which will allow them to do some year-round training. The building is located along Hickory, away from the neighborhood, and is contextual to the area there. The whole project as a whole took several considerations into being good neighbors, relocating the only access point off of Hickory, adding more parking. Any lighting that will be installed would meet the requirements of the South Bend ordinance, which has a lot of dark sky requirements to help protect the neighborhood. In addition, this new development will also require it meet all the drainage standards, for instance. So there's a lot of things that will be brought up to standards as they do this, new sidewalks, new landscaping. And so as a whole, we're really looking forward to bringing this opportunity to the neighborhood. There are a lot of neighborhood kids that still play at this facility. It's a Babe Ruth facility, so it's a little bit different than the traditional Little League that used to exist. So it is an opportunity for the neighborhood as well as the city as a whole, and has some residents from the greater region that also like to play in this area. So we're really excited about bringing this opportunity, and we hope you will send it to the council as a whole with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. I'm going to start with some questions. I've had a few emails over the last few weeks, kind of concerns, some uncertainty about the project. And if kind of similar as we did earlier, if you could kind of address those questions and concerns. One is traffic, and people think that have concerns about traffic spilling over into the neighborhood to the west. And then just overall more people and traffic in the area. And then the other concern is lighting. And some of the houses to the west are very close to that west line and might be affected by the housing and noises of the game if they play late at night. I'm trying to think, there was one more I had on there.
Lack of green space.
Yes, and then the green, we're kind of using some of the green space that is there now up and taking away that green space for something that isn't the same kind of open green space open to the public and anybody to use. And if you could address those for me, please.
Sure. As I mentioned, one of the big things that we looked at when starting this was to make sure that the traffic was coming from Hickory, since Hickory's already has a lot of almost commercial nature to it. So the main entrance into the park is on Shriners Way. The addition of about 183 parking spaces would also help relieve that pressure of people parking along Rarick, for instance, as well as I don't think it'll be as convenient for people to get to the baseball diamonds once this open parking lot opens up. That's going to be far more centrally located. So that's the more attractive use. We'll also be installing like curb and sidewalk and streetscape trees, which will also cut down on some of the parking along what's now kind of an open curb. So that'll be less attractive there as well. In terms of lighting, the requirements in the South Bend ordinance are pretty dark sky friendly. So there's a lot of restrictions on having them be fully shielded, cut off lights, the cutting off the foot candles. So the brightness at the property line, as well as maximum lumens. So it kind of changes the effect of how the lights appear. They're a much softer light now. The lights are also kind of focused away from the residential because of how the baseball diamonds are oriented. And as I mentioned, the streetscape trees, which are shade trees, will also do a lot to kind of buffer that right now. A lot of the existing vegetation is interior to the park, and so that you can see almost straight through to Hickory. Once you have the landscaping that's required by the ordinance, that will be greatly improved for all of the residents. For noise, the hope is that having the additional diamonds will allow them to finish earlier in the day. Running lights and everything in the evenings, a cost to the park. So some of these things will be hopefully be resolved by having more diamonds so they can play earlier. But there's also some new technology and the systems that they can use that help direct the sound so that you don't have the big echoing effect. Again, the landscaping will help a lot with that as well. In terms of loss of green space, we do have, two types of parks in South Bend. We have the passive and we have the active. While this has been a passive park for quite some time, we're looking forward to having some activity here. The area of Bain Park, which is just to the south, is about 8 to 10 acres of passive park open space. So it's in very close proximity. Still a lot of opportunities for the neighborhood residents to have that open space right there. Did I miss
Thank you.
anything?
Councilmember Lee.
Yes. Angela, how many more youth or players will this bring to this facility?
I'm not sure if I have a good answer for that because a lot of that will depend on how the diamonds are phased in. So there are a lot of limitations right now on the park in terms of how many youth they can service because they only have so much space. They're primarily using the diamonds south of Shriners right now. So this will open up that opportunity. I don't think it'll be like 8 times as many kids just because you have more diamonds, but I do think it'll open up quite a bit. You still have to make sure you find the coaching and all the other staff that goes with that. So this will allow for that. The use of the turf that they're doing also allows them to be flexible between softball and baseball. So as the demand for those different services shift over time, they'll be able to adjust to that pretty quickly.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goodrich.
Yes, not that it matters, I'm just curious. So will they be able to do hot dogs and stuff out there now, or is this gonna remain the same?
So the plan is to have those central and then kind of like in the middle of the in these areas here that are kind of like the press boxes, those can also serve as bathrooms and concessions for the diamonds as well. So a more centralized amenity for all of the diamonds. The indoor facility will also allow them to have kind of a office on site, which they don't currently have, which we think will help a lot with the safety issues that have come up in the park. A lot of times when the park is not utilized and there isn't the activity, they've had some reports of people doing some unsavory things. This will help cut down on that as well.
Okay, with that, we will go to the public hearing portion. Any members of the public wishing to speak on Bill 1825 in favor of Bill 1825, either in person or online?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor of the bill.
Any members of the public wishing to speak against 1825, either in person or online at this time?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition of the bill.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll bring it back to council. Any final comments?
Make a motion.
Okay, make a motion.
Make a motion to send 2025 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I think
18.
1825, sorry.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to send 1825 forward with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Toronto, please do a roll call.
Councilmember Nisgowsky.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis.
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Okay, 1825 go forward with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Toronto, can you please give Bill 2025 a second reading?
Public hearing on an ordinance of the South Bend Common Council creating the 2024 RDA taxable lease rental revenue bond, capital fund number 457.
Thank you. Is there a committee report? Oh, that's from my committee. That, I don't know, that's.
Yeah, that was on personal and
Finance
finance.
Committee.
Yep, that was heard this afternoon and it was given a favorable recommendation to the committee of the whole.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Willis.
Yes, Kyle Willis, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor. Bill number 20-25 creates fund number 457, which will house the bond proceeds for the Madison Lifestyle Project. The project generated $24.48 million. Those proceeds will go towards the project expenses related to the Madison Lifestyle District. These funds, proceeds in this fund can only be used towards this project and any other related expenses. This is a capital fund, which is also a non-reverting fund, which means that once if there's any dollars left over after the project is completed, they cannot be transferred to the general fund. They would need to stay in this fund and pay for any additional expenses related to the project.
Thank you, sir. Council members, any initial questions? Councilmember Thomas Morgan.
We talked about this in committee, but just for the sake of the public, the fund is being created essentially for accountability. You clarified a question that I had asked, which is not only does it, will the fund hold the revenue, but also all expenses will be paid out of these funds.
Correct.
Seeing no one else at this time, we'll go to the public hearing on Bill 2025. Any members of the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 2025, either in person or online?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor of the bill.
Thank you. Any members of the public, either in person or online, wishing to speak against Bill 2025?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you. Back to council. Any comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion to send Bill 2025 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second?
Have a motion and a second to send forward with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Toronto, can you please do a roll call vote for us?
Councilmember Dr. Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan.
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Bill will go forward with a favorable. And Clerk Toronto, can you please give Bill 2125 a second reading?
Public hearing on an ordinance of the South Bend Common Council creating the 2024 RDA Lease Rental Revenue Bond Capital Fund number 458.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, there is, Chair. Bill 2125 was heard in personal and finance this afternoon and was given a favorable recommendation to the committee of the whole.
Thank you very much. Mr. Willis.
Yes, Kyle Willis, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor. Bill number 21-25 establishes a new fund, Fund 458. This fund is established to receive the bond proceeds for the Four Winds Field project in the amount of $44.86 million. This fund is also established to track all the expenses related to this project for the expenses that for the improvements at Four Winds Field. It's also a capital fund. It's similar to just like the previous fund 457. It's capital fund, non-reverting fund, and all proceeds will remain in this fund and expense for the original purpose, which is for the improvements at Four Winds Field.
Thank you. I got a couple questions for you.
Okay.
When do we expect the proceeds for both these bonds to start coming in, or have they already come in?
Proceeds have already come in, so we're behind in just getting this approved. This is just more of an administrative approval, so the funds are already in hand and construction has already started over at Fort Winsfield. I think they probably have stopped now since the season has started. But during the summer, they definitely got a lot of construction done, and I think the completion will be late next year.
Late next year. Construction continues even during the baseball season. I was curious whether the money was coming in and if we were paying bills for it yet.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council members? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the public hearing portion of on the bill. At this time, is there any members of the public who wish to speak on Bill 2125 in favor, either in person in the chambers or online?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor of the bill.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak against Bill 2125, either in person or online?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition of the bill.
To council, any questions, comments, or a motion?
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to send Bill 2125 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
I got three motions and the second. Clerk Toronto, can you please do a roll call and a motion to send the bill forward with a favorable recommendation?
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 2125 will go forward with a favorable recommendation. And last but not least, Clerk Toronto, can you please give second reading to Bill 2225?
Public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, to vacate the following described property: the portion of the right-of-way along the south side of Marion Street and the east side of Main Street from the roundabout at Michigan Street and Marion Street southwesternly to Madison Street.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, there is, Chair. This was heard in Public Works Property Vacation Committee this afternoon and was given a favorable recommendation to the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Angela Smith from
Good
Dan
evening,
Harnett
Ms. Smith.
Associates. Office is located at 1643 Commerce Drive. This map will help illustrate a little bit what we have going on here. So this is part of the remnants of what the state had done when they vacated when they rerouted the roundabout that goes just south of Beacon Hospital and comes around into Main Street. You can see all of the area that is on this block that is not colored purple. That's all currently right of way. And so this vacation property looks to vacate that right of way up to a foot behind the sidewalk, which then opens up all of that area for the development that's going on to this block. So it allows for a more urban style of development and allows for the use of the property to its full potential. If approved this evening, the next step is to do a subdivision to consolidate all of these parcels into one lot that would be developed by Great Lakes Capital. We've already worked with utility companies. The one utility that's not in this area, but in a previously vacated alley is being relocated to help with this development as well. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
We're just giving up that little green space there. Okay, council members, any questions? Okay. So at this time, we will go to the public portion. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in favor of Bill 2225?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor of the bill.
Thank you. And those against, is there any members of the public wishing to speak against Bill 2225 vacating the portions of the Marion Street roundabout.
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition of the bill.
Thank you. Public hearing portion is now closed. We'll bring it back to the council.
Move that we send Bill 22-25 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to send forward with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Toronto, can you please do a roll call vote for us?
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 2225 will also go forward with a favorable recommendation. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn from the committee of the whole and report back to the full council.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee of the whole is now adjourned.
The full council is now back in session, and this is the portion of the meeting where bills are given a third reading and action is taken regarding bills that were heard in the committee of the whole. Clerk Toronto, could you please give Bill 06-25 a third reading?
Third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 411 Cottage Grove Avenue, Councilmanic District Number 1 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Counselor Warner, is there a recommendation from the committee of the whole?
0625 comes with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 6-25.
Move for passage.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, please call the roll.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
8 ayes.
0625 has now passed. Clerk Toronto, would you please give Bill 15-25 a third reading?
Third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 1335 Corby Boulevard, Councilmanic District Number 4 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Counselor Warner, is there a recommendation from the committee of the whole?
Yes, 1525 regarding 1335 Corby Boulevard comes with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion
Move for
regarding.
passage.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
8 ayes.
15-25 is passed. Clerk Toronto, please give Bill 16-25 a third reading.
Third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 1253 Corby Boulevard, Councilmanic District Number 4 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Counselor Warner, is there a recommendation from the committee of the whole?
The bill regarding 1253 Corby Boulevard comes with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion.
Move for passage.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, please call the roll.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Bill 16-25 is now passed. Clerk Toronto, please give Bill 18-25 a third reading.
Third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 701 Hickory Road, Councilmanic District Number 4 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Counselor Warner, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole?
Bill 1825 comes with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion.
Second.
There's been a motion and package, there's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, please call a roll.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
1825 is now passed. Clerk Toronto, would you give 20-25 a third reading?
Third reading on an ordinance of the South Bend Common Council creating the 2024 RDA taxable lease rental revenue bond capital fund number 457.
Bill 2025 comes with a favorable recommendation.
Oh, I will now entertain a motion.
So moved.
Move for oh, yeah, you said move for passage.
Move for
Second.
passage.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
2025 has passed. Clerk Toronto, please give Bill 2125 a third reading.
Third reading on an ordinance of the South Bend Common Council creating the 2024 RDA lease rental revenue bond capital fund number 458.
2125 comes with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion.
Move for passage.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, please call the roll.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
2125 has now passed. All right, Clerk Toronto, please give 22-25 a third reading.
Third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, to vacate the following described property: the portion of the right-of-way along the south side of Marion Street and east side of Main Street from the roundabout at Michigan Street and Marion Street southwestly to Madison Street.
Councilor Warner, is there a recommendation?
Bill 2225 also comes with a favorable recommendation.
I will now entertain a motion.
Move for passage.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, please call the roll.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Bill 22-25 has now passed. Resolutions. This is the portion of the council meetings where the common council hears bills filed as proposed resolutions. The title of each proposed resolution is read by the city clerk. A report from the committee chairperson of the standing committee to which the bill was referred to for an advisory review and recommendation is then given. During the public portion on each proposed resolution, members of the public are invited to address the council. We ask that you please give your name, address, and comments on the bill. If you have any questions, they will be addressed by the presenter during their rebuttal. Each member of the public is limited to 5 minutes, with those speaking in favor going first, followed by those in opposition, then a 5-minute rebuttal from the presenter. All right, Clerk Toronto, please give Resolution 2520 a read.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving the issuance of scrap metal junk dealers recycling operations licenses for calendar year 2025 pursuant to Section 4-51 of the South Bend Municipal Code.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, Bill 2520 was heard in the Committee of Community Investment earlier this afternoon and comes forward with a favorable recommendation.
We see that we have a petitioner. I ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Michelle Adams, Community Investment, the 14th floor of the County City Building. I'm here this afternoon to request the Common Council consider the resolution to approve 6 scrap metal dealer renewal applications in accordance with Section 4-51 of the South Bend Municipal Code. The renewal applications for scrap metal dealer operations have been received. In accordance with the procedures to issue the licenses, the applications were submitted to the South Bend Police Department, the Fire Inspection Bureau, Neighborhood Resources, and the Zoning Department for their review and recommendation. The following properties were inspected and received favorable recommendations regarding fire, code, environmental compliance, proper maintenance of the premises, and the height and conditioning of the fences. LKQ Pick Your Part Midwest at 1602 South Lafayette Boulevard, Big Bulldog Auto Parts, 3700 South Gertrude Street, OmniSource, 1305 Prairie Avenue, Republic Services, 2500 Green Tech Drive, Stevie's Enterprises, 3109 South Gertrude, and Paul's Auto Yard at 3300 South Main Street. The South Bend Police Department's review process is to investigate each applicant and makes a recommendation as to whether the licenses should be granted. The South Bend Police Department considers the criminal history, if any, and the likelihood that granting the licenses will endanger the health, safety, or welfare of the public. South Bend Police Department found nothing considerable to warrant that the applications be denied. As a result, South Bend Police Department recommends that all 6 licenses be issued. Code enforcement determines whether such premises are fit and proper for the maintenance and operation of such a business. They'll verify that the fencing is in good condition, which was also verified together with zoning and a code enforcement officer. They'll verify that there's no litter or debris around the exterior part of the business. Verify that there are not any improperly parked vehicles and that there are no environmental issues. South Bend Fire Department determines whether such premises are fit and proper for the maintenance and operation of such a business. They ensure there are no combustible materials and all inflammable materials must not be stored on premises. Storerooms and garages must be free from rubbish, waste material, and old rags and paper. Oil, gasoline, oily waste, and other greasy material must be stored in metal waste cans. Proper number of fire extinguishers must be in close proximity to areas within such scrap or junkyards wherein trash, metal, or other waste materials may be burned and keep and maintained therein, an unobstructed fire truck lane at least 10 feet in width into such yard from the main entrance. Ensure waste oil containers are double lined or have secondary containment with some sort of berm around the tanks to keep them from being hit by vehicles. If hot work such as welding or cutting is being done on the premises, that must be set up away from the oil storage area and other combustibles. Zoning verifies the use of property is allowed, and along with the code enforcement officer verified the height and condition of the fence were compliant. Each property is considered a legal non-conforming use. In the environment, we found that none of the properties have any active violations. All the said reviewing agencies found each property to be compliant and recommended all 6 renewal applications be approved or be issued. Because all the applicants have met all the requirements of the ordinance, the attached resolution is respectfully submitted for your consideration. I can take any questions if you have them.
Council members, do you have any questions?
I'd like to ask.
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. Sounds a little bit far-fetched, but was this just done, this good report, because they were up for a license? Or how many times a year or whatever the inspection goes on to see to it that this is really done?
I believe the ordinance states that it's supposed to be done twice a year.
But in twice a year, there's been no violations at all? I mean, it's fine if it has been because this is a good report. But what we want to make sure that they continue to do this, not just because it's time for the license to be renewed.
Right. No, I have not been informed of any violations.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? We talked a lot about it in committee, so. If not, we will now go to the public hearing section. Clerk Toronto, is there anyone here in the chambers or online that would like to speak in favor of Resolution 25-20?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor of the bill.
Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition of the bill.
All right, at this point, the public hearing portion of Resolution 25-20 is now closed. Council members, any other comments, or I will now entertain a motion?
I move that 25-20 be approved for adoption.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, please call the roll.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Good Rogers,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Resolution 25-20 has now been adopted. Clerk Toronto, please give Resolution 25-21 a reading.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, recommending denial of a scrap metal junk dealers recycling operations licensing for U.S. Scrap and Recycling LLC pursuant to Section 4-51 of the South Bend Municipal Code.
Yes, is there a committee report?
Mr. Zoning?
Community investment.
Bill was heard in community investment this afternoon and comes forward with a favorable recommendation.
All right, thank you, sir. Petitioner, I ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Michelle Adams, Business License Administrator, Community Investment, 14th floor of the County City Building.
All right, and are we doing a presentation? We're not doing a presentation. Yep. Okay.
I'm here this afternoon to request the Common Council to consider the resolution to deny the application for U.S. Scrap and Recycling in accordance with Section 4-51 of the South Bend Municipal Code. Scrap dealers per Section 4-51C requires a resolution from the Common Council to approve the issuance of a license for conducting a business and the maintenance and operation of said business. The application for the operation of scrap metal junk dealer recycling operation was received from U.S. Scrap and Recycling LLC, which is located at 1610 Circle Avenue. In accordance with the procedure to issue the license, I submitted the application to the Police Department, Fire Inspection Bureau, Neighborhood Resources, and the Zoning Department for their review and recommendations. The applicant's property was inspected by said departments and received favorable recommendations. However, the property was found to have multiple environmental hazardous waste violations by the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. I'm asking the Common Council to issue a resolution to deny. 1610 Circle Avenue has environmental and hazardous waste violations under federal and state law. Actions of U.S. Scrap and Recycling LLC violate the applicable city ordinances and have endangered the public. Given the many violations and the failure to meet the requirements of the ordinance, I respectfully ask that you consider denying the scrap metal license renewal application. And Caleb Bauer is going to go over the environmental issues in more detail.
Caleb Bauer, Executive Director of Community Investment Offices on the 14th floor. So just a summary, I know we had gone through this in committee, but So a summary of the violations found by the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. As you're already aware, IDEM, as we call it, is the environmental compliance agency that governs the state of Indiana. They made site inspections in 2024 that discovered violations in the way that potentially contaminated substances were being disposed of as part of a demolition, part of demolition activity occurring on the site. In accordance with the Indiana Code, the IDEM commissioner provided notice that violations existed on the 1610 Circle Avenue property. And that notice, I provided the most recent formal notice dated January 14th of this year. It should be in your packets. It's a 4-page notice of violation. And that those violations are based on Indiana Code, which references the Indiana Administrative Code, which also cross-references federal environmental law as well. And so the 3 violations, in summary, were a failure to make waste determinations on certain materials possibly associated with the smelting, refining rotary furnace, and releases identified in various locations at the site and contents of numerous containers, as well as shipping large quantity volumes of waste without notice to IDEM and without proper EPA documentation, and depositing of solid waste and contaminants upon the land in an unacceptable method. All 3 of those violations potentially endangered public health and safety, and therefore are the basis by which we are requesting that you do not renew this scrap metal license. Just a little bit of a summary of other areas of concern from our team and the administration is in May of 2024, U.S. Scrap began demolition work on the property. And at that time, the business license was revoked by the administration because of what we believe was the loss of the legal nonconforming status per the zoning ordinance because of inactive use of the facility over multiple years. The U.S. Scrap presented testimony in an appeal of that revocation of the business license that said they were working in cooperation with IDEM and complying with IDEM rules and regulations. That was on August 6th. On August 12th, IDEM first inspected and became aware of active violations of hazardous waste transport. So 6 days later, IDEM was on site observing violations. Those violations then are the violations now cited in that January 15th letter. So in that revocation of license hearing under oath, there were statements made that the activities on the site that had been occurring were in line with state and federal environmental law, when in fact we believe that they were not, per the inspection results from IDEM's notice of violation. So as Michelle mentioned, Section 451 of the municipal code is the one specifically on the bottom of the screen here, specifically related to scrap metal dealers, requires that they comply with all applicable fire, health, and public safety laws of the state and provisions of this code and other ordinance of the city. So not only referencing state code, but referencing the building ordinance, which references environmental law at the state and federal level. Section 416, moving up, conducting the activity in such a manner as to constitute a breach of the peace or a menace to the health, safety, and welfare of the public. And Section 4.6 says every licensee is required not to create a nuisance or hazard to the public. So we believe in all 3 cases, those sections have been violated. As well, as I mentioned, there's the specific piece on scrap metal dealers. And then there is the council's judgment in the renewal of a scrap metal license in Section 451 subsection F that says the council shall consider the effect or appropriateness of a scrap or junkyard upon the surrounding area, both in the issuance initially of a license and in its renewal. Therefore, again, reiterating our request and recommendation that you deny the scrap metal license before you today. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions, council members? Yes.
I don't have any questions. I just want to, the questions that I posed during the committee, they are still the same, and I'll wait until the public has had opportunity to make any closing comments.
Okay.
I'll also wait to the committee, not share my thoughts.
All right. Well, we'll now go to the public hearing portion. Clerk Toronto, is there anyone here or online that would like? Yes, sir. I was trying to get the question out. Well, we're so grateful for all of you that are here tonight. And so if you would state your name and address for the record,
Sure.
and then you have 5
My
minutes.
name is Richard Williams. I live at 724 West Washington Street, maybe a half mile or so from the site in question. I've lived in the neighborhood since 1994, very happily so. You can imagine that I was a little startled to hear, wait, there's a toxic brownfield site down the street from me? Well, that was a little rattling. But even more rattling was when I hear about this company that's trying to work on the site. They have, well, you've heard all the things they violated. They just started moving hazardous materials without any previous proposals. They missed numerous item deadlines. They did not file reports, required reports for hazardous substances in 2023 and 2024. Now, if I'm going to have a company working on a toxic brownfield site, like less than a mile from me, I want a company that's just really spectacular, that's following all the rules, that's taking this very seriously. I don't want a company that's going to be dodging all the rules and regulations and relying on their lawyers to sue or whatever to get this thing through. But even beyond that, maybe something like this made sense 30, 40, 50 years ago, whenever the original company was there. But it doesn't make much sense now. If you've been here a long time, you know that like the 12 and 1300 block of Washington used to be one of the worst areas of the city. It had crime, prostitution, drug dealing. And then, I don't remember the next years, but South Bend Heritage and others came in. They built the, what is the South Bend Mutual Homes or whatever. And the area just improved dramatically. Okay, and that's just a few blocks more. What are you talking about? There's been other growth in housing in those areas. Okay, now people don't want, people are investing in their houses. And it's a very racially and economically diverse neighborhood. You can look at the census statistic and you'll see that within a relatively small area, you have some of the greatest diversity in the city. Okay, and you don't want, when things are growing like that, when they're improving, I mean, some of the things there, a lot of single family homes, several churches. There's Martin Luther King Center. Okay, that's good stuff. And you want to encourage more good stuff to be coming and to tell people, oh, and by the way, there's this company that breaks all the rules, that is trying to get a noisy, a recycling site, a place that's going to have trucks and everything else, and that they're not very good at following environmental rules. That does not encourage people to move into the neighborhood. That does not encourage the continuing process like progress like we've seen. So I very strongly urge that we not pass this. And I am speaking for myself, but I've talked to many others in the neighborhood. And we don't like this company either. We don't like what they're proposing to do. And it just, you know, even regardless of the company, this doesn't make much sense to do that kind of development. 40 years ago, maybe it did, but now, no, it doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please state your name and address for the record.
John Hamilton, 913 West Colfax. I'm just a little bit closer, not by much, but a little closer to this use that I knew nothing about. We came to our property in about 2003. Now, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, the St. Joseph River was a sewer. Nobody fronted on the St. Joseph River if they could possibly avoid it because it was a mess. I don't think we need to live with past mistakes. I don't think we have to harbor past mistakes. The use of the land by this company or its predecessor was a mistake. And we don't need it to continue, especially given all that has already been said about how our part of the world, the near Northwest, is a growing, vibrant, multicultural, multiracial example of what we hope the United States will become. This is an example of DEI in its best sense. Please help us to continue that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We would like to acknowledge Commissioner Raphael Morton is here tonight. Thank you for being in the audience.
Ann Mannix, 724 West Washington. I'm just going to speak briefly, but Karen White asked this afternoon what's going to happen next. And one option is that this company will clean the site up and work with IDEM and things will be okay. The second option is they won't do anything and may try to disassociate themselves. This is all my ideas. It's not, scientific truth or anything. The other option, so they might fix it up. If they don't, they'll walk away and try to avoid legal liability. And then IDEM can go after them for whatever they can get out of them, but it's probably not going to be much. And so IDEM doesn't have much money to fix things up. So then you have to go to the EPA and try to become a Superfund site. And IDEM is testing our neighborhood for lead, because if enough lead has overblown Hurwitch iron and is in people's yards, that is what the EPA looks for. So we're getting environmental testing to see if we qualify for EPA grants, but it's all going to have to get worked out over time. But this is a good start. And if the license is denied, they will have a much harder time getting zoning to rebuild their operations. So that's just my opinion of what's going to happen.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is James Curley. I live at 2610 Sampson Street, South Bend, 46614. That tells you all that I don't live in the affected district, but it's my city. I live here, and I would like to put a human face on this. I prefer not to describe the responsible person as the applicant or the respondent. I would like to describe him as Jason Grube. And I want his name to be known, because the names of people who live in this community, individuals will be affected by the lead or whatever the hazards may be that flow from this property. I'm coming a little late into knowledge of this situation, but I have physically laid eyes on the property, or I should say tried to. It's like a walled fort, folks. On the north, on the south, on the east, on the west. It's pretty darn hard to see in there and see what may or may not be going on. But there are mounds of suspicious looking material, and I understand it's been inspected. But when I read the inspection reports and talk about unknown gray material, it gives me cause for concern. And on behalf of all the people of the neighborhood and of the city, I urge you to deny this permit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Hello again. As this afternoon, Donnie Rogers, 508.5 West Washington Street, here speaking toward the denial of this permit. And I'd like to remind people of the parable of the camel's nose. And this question is, what's next? If this is approved, we don't know what this organization, as Mr. Grube has been brought forward, what this organization wants to do. So we don't know how many trucks are going to be coming through this peaceful neighborhood. How many trains would they like to bring in through a currently abandoned rail siding to bring in how much scrap in and out of the neighborhood? How much pollution from idling trucks will we be subjecting the neighborhood to? These are the things that I want us to think about. You know, the camel's nose, once the camel gets its nose under the tent, it seems harmless until the camel brings down the tent. That's what I'd like you to consider in what could happen with this moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, council members. Raphael Morton, St. Joe County Commissioner. I just want to keep this very brief and just say thank you to Councilwoman White and Mr. Bogner and a lot of the neighbors, Caleb and the administration for really taking on this very, very serious problem that has been lingering, as far as I'm concerned, way too long. And the collaboration that has happened in the last couple of years has been exceptional. So I just want to say thank you and go on the record of supporting this denial. And I won't even go into all the reasons why, but thank you very much, everyone involved.
All right. Is there anyone that's opposing the denial? Clerk Toronto.
I do not see anyone in the audience or online wishing to speak in opposition of the bill.
All right. Well, at this point, the public hearing portion on 2521 is now closed. Council members, if you'd like to make comments, we will take those comments now. Ophelia Gooden Rogers, please.
I'd just like to say thanks to everyone that came in support to help deny this bill, because it's been going on for a very long time. And since I'm new to the council and have worked in the neighborhood with this before, just then as a small person, but now I guess I get a step up. So I would just like to say thank you to Ms. White that's been on this for a very, very long time. And now is tonight the time to do something. Thank you all.
Dr. Davis.
Yes, like to thank everyone in the administration, everyone in the neighbors. First got alerted to all of this back in 2019 when we were having to fight off with them putting a homeless center over in the neighborhood. And so now here we are 6 years later, still dealing with that. And I would like for us to what we said today, that we really need to make sure that we don't do any further business with this company. Maya Angelou said, if they show you who they are the first time, believe them. And last year on August the 6th, they sit up there with their attorney, said that they were working, and a few days later they were not. And they almost got away with this one. And then the next thing, I agree that one of our speakers this afternoon said that we should really take the time to revamp how we do business with these type of businesses, so that if it wasn't for Mr. Bogner and others, this could have gotten, past us. And I think that that issue needs to be raised to the highest of levels. I'm looking at here, it says just 2 days ago, new Trump administration directives to repeal environmental regulations. The EPA launches biggest deregulatory action in United States history. And my concern is, as we look at the current Trump administration, more and more regulations going to be totally taken away. And as they're taken away, actions like this could be approved down the road from the federal government. And we on the local level will have to do all we can to fight against these kind of actions, because it's going on in many states right now that they are wiping out the ability to defend these situations. And so this is a movement that we have to make sure, because this affects our personal, family, breathing, living lives like nothing else. Environmental justice comes to us right in our home. And we have to look at this and speak up and fight against it, starting at the local neighborhood level like we've been doing, and be very cognizant of how this impacts us on the state and level. I'm glad IDEM has taken that kind of focus, but we must remember when they made this launch, that was last August under a different administration. So now that we have this, we have to continue to really make sure that we are steady on the on hand to guard what's going on in not only this neighborhood but throughout our city. Thank you,
Mr. Warner. All right, Ms. White.
Yes, okay. I'm gonna make this very short. I first would want to thank former President Sharon McBride. I do recall bringing this to her when she was the president at that time, and she, she was right on board. Someone asked me, why are you so involved and why does this matter? I started this journey 2019. I knew very little about environmental justice or even, contamination. And so at that time, we had a council meeting, and that's when I met Jim Bogner, and I asked him if he would, start doing some research for me. He's probably was thinking, well, you can go and get that from other individuals. I just saw him and I asked him to do that. And so we continue to look at some of these issues, working with the neighborhood association, but also I would want to recognize Connie Council Commissioner Raphael Morton. I called him and I said, we need to talk about this situation because it was beyond just South Bend. It was a bigger issue. And he got the county involved, but also he became very, very much involved and very much committed to make sure that we were moving forward. So I just want to thank him as well. And would like to thank the administration. Caleb, I know you probably got tired of us, but you hung in there. And so I just thank, you for your commitment, the administration, to continue to look at this issue and to bring us to the point that we're at now. So I sincerely appreciate that. And can't wait to see what's going to be next. But again, thank the neighbors from that neighborhood association. I appreciate you. I appreciate your commitment, and I just appreciate everyone. That's it for me.
Councilwoman McBride, Niskowski, Thomas Morgan. All right, and again, thank you. It can't be said enough. We actually saw very many levels of government working together for the benefit of the residents of that neighborhood, and thank God for everybody working together. And thank you, Caleb, and your administration, and Ann and the Neighborhood Association, and of course, Councilwoman McBride and White and Commissioner Morton and all of those who have worked to just bring this to light. And thank God that we could work together, and now we can vote on this to stop this from happening. I'm really surprised that no one from the U.S. Steel Company didn't come to defend themselves, but that's okay. And so at this point, I'm ready for a motion.
I move for adoption, Bill Resolution 25-21.
Second.
It's been a motion and it's been second. Clerk Toronto, please call the roll.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Niskowski,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right. Resolution 25-21 has now been adopted. Clerk Toronto, please give 25. Don't go now. Y'all gotta all stay. We're gonna leave together. No. I'm just kidding. 25, 20, Clerk Toronto, please give 25, 22 together. We stuck in here this long.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, adopting Indiana Code 5-23 in its entirety and authorizing the City of South Bend Board of Public Works to take all other actions related thereto.
All right, is there a committee report?
Yes, there is. This was heard in the Public Works and Property Vacation Committee this afternoon and was given a favorable recommendation.
All right, petitioner, I ask that you state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Michael Schmidt, Assistant City Attorney with offices on the 13th floor of this building. Thank you for your time this evening. What we're asking here today is council approve this resolution for a build, operate, transfer, which is required under the state statute to have councils approve this resolution. What that will do is it'll give the city, in particular the Board of Public Works, the ability to have another procurement method for public works projects. So right now there's a traditional design bid build. We've used government guaranteed energy savings contracts. We've done some construction manager contracts. This will be another one that we can have in our back pocket as we continue to kind of fight the landscape right now, which is a very challenging marketplace to improve public infrastructure.
All right, thank you very much. Council members, are there any questions? If not, I will now go to the public hearing portion. Clerk Toronto, is anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 25-22?
I do not see anyone in public or online wishing to speak in favor of the bill.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
All right, at this time, the public hearing section is closed. I will now entertain a motion.
Move for passage.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dr. Davis,
Out there.
okay. Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
7 ayes.
All right. Resolution 25-22 has passed. All right, Clerk Toronto, please give 25-23 a reading.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, authorizing and approving the execution of a First Amendment to the Certified Technology Park Agreement between the City of South Bend, Indiana, Economic Development Corporation, and the South Bend Redevelopment Commission.
All right, is there a committee report?
There is. Mr. Molnar presented this bill to the Committee Investment Committee this afternoon, and the bill received a favorable recommendation.
All right, Mr. Molnar, we ask that you give your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Council. Joe Molnar, Assistant Director, Growth and Opportunity with offices on the 14th floor of the County City Building. I know many of you saw this at committee, so I'll be a little briefer this time. So the resolution before you authorizes the First Amendment to the Certified Technology Park Agreement for Ignition and Innovation Park. Ignition Park is on the left hand of your screen here, shaded in green. This is the boundary for the Certified Technology Park, and on the right is for Innovation Park. The two together were Indiana's first two-site certified technology park. It was the first site in Indiana that was split into two geographies, and it was created to support the attraction and growth of high technology businesses. And that original agreement with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation dates from 2008 with the Common Council. Just a little bit of background, Ignition Park is approximately 140 acres of land south of downtown and includes Catalyst 1 and 2, the Notre Dame Turbo Machinery Labs, and the Press Ganey headquarters. This is primarily on former Studebaker Manufacturing campus land. And then Innovation Park is located just south of campus and is in a partnership with Notre Dame and includes 80,000 square foot building and is home to over 60 startup companies today. But what is the Certified Technology Park? Essentially, it is a fund that allows for the capture of property taxes that exceed the base assessed value for parcels within the park. It also captures taxes from retail and use taxes from businesses in the park, and finally, state income taxes paid by the employees for wages earned for the work in the park. So similar to how Caleb was speaking earlier today about TIFs. This captures taxes in those geographies, but goes beyond just property taxes. The original state legislation set it where the fund could accumulate this funding up to the $5 million cap over its lifetime, but then once it reached $5 million, it couldn't accept any more funding into the fund. And that was met a few years ago at Artec Park. So once that $5 million cap was met, there was no more increment being generated. It was essentially kind of paused. But in 2023, for the first time, the state legislature allowed for recertification of the parks and created a level 2 certified technology park agreement. Prior to that, there was no recertification possible. Once that went into effect in the fall of 2023, the Indiana Economic Development team reached out to us and we started the reapplication process to get this recertified as a level 2. The resolution today would be the final step in that process. It would retroactively establish that level 2 starting July 1st of 2023, going through June of 2027, and then it could be recertified again after 2027. One change this time, however, was instead of setting a $5 million cap on the overall funding that would be able to be captured, this sets a not to exceed $250,000 for every year. The fund uses are set by state statute. They can be used for things like acquisition, public works improvements, environmental remediation, and construction of public facilities, etc. The funds would be allocated by the Redevelopment Commission similar to TIFs, so budget requests would be brought to the RDC to expend this funding if you would approve the resolution and funding would start coming in. And future funds would be reinvested to the aid of redevelopment efforts. So for example, if we had a business that wanted to come to Ignition Park, we could use some of this funding to help pay for the public utility extensions to make that business possible, or any other public improvements that might aid in, attracting the business to come. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
All right, any questions?
I have a question. You go to slide, I think it's the second slide. This came up, no, back.
Oh.
This came up after committee, but we're not only capturing the property taxes here like TIF does, but we're capturing taxes that would go to downstate.
Yes.
And instead of those going downstate, they're staying here and being used within our community and the technology parks.
That is great. That is exactly right. Usually retail taxes or state income taxes go straight to the state coffers and they stay in Indy and are distributed there. These would stay then and come back to the city to be reinvested here.
Like the sports development. So let's try to get the legislature to do that. Let us do that a lot more often. We like those where we can capture their dollars and keep them here and invest them in good things. And all these things we invest end up growing the tax base. So it does benefit them in the long run. So anyway, that was a little tangential in between meetings discussion we had. Thank you, sir.
Vice President Thomas Morgan.
Yeah, you answered this in committee, but I just wanted to bring it up again. Since we're retroacting this to 2023, they're 2 years, 500,000 that we would hope to expect from the IECD. What is what's a timeline for that and what's what are their considerations? Like why wouldn't we get that?
Sure. Well, our reading of it is that we would.
Okay.
So we're confirming that with them, but once it was officially recertified and it was retroactively applied to that date, the idea would be is then the funds would come in.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? And what are what next step plans for Innovation Park and?
Sure.
And
Yeah, so there's been significant interest in the park in the last 12 to 18 months. We've been fielding a lot more calls. The redevelopment commission owns the vacant land left in the park, primarily with the GM factory being built to the west of town, as well as some Amazon interest as well. There are some subsidiary companies that work in the battery field that have been expressing interest in possibly expanding to be close to that factory. So we're in discussions with a few there, but nothing concrete at this time. We would hope that, if we have this tool, that's one other incentive that we can help to bring jobs and economic development.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, we'll now go to public hearing. Clerk Toronto, is there anyone looking to speak in favor of Bill 25, Resolution 2523?
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor of the bill.
Is there anyone looking to speak in opposition?
I do not see anyone from the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition of the bill.
All right, at this point, the public hearing portion for Bill Resolution 2523 is now closed.
Go for passage.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Clerk Toronto, call the roll.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Nisgowsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Dr. Davis, Councilmember Gooden Rogers, Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Vice President Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
President Lee,
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right. 2523 has been adopted. All right, Clerk Toronto. Oh, let me see. Yeah. Clerk Toronto. Let's move on to bills on first reading. Could you please give a first reading to Bill 23-25?
First reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 6, Article 9 of the South Bend Municipal Code to update the regulations for flood damage prevention.
All right, I would like to accept a motion to send Bill 23-25 to Public Works and Property Vacations for public hearing and third reading on 4/28/25.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes. Clerk Toronto, please give 24-25 a first reading.
First reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 1702 Western Avenue, Councilmanic District Number 6 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
I will now entertain a motion to send Bill 24-25 to Board of Zoning Appeals on May 5th and to the Zoning and Annexation Committee for public hearing and third reading on May 12th.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Clerk Toronto, please give Bill 26-25 a first reading.
First reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 13, Article 4, Section 13-58, Chapter 2, Article 12, Section 2-142, and Chapter 13, Article 10, Section 13-96 to update the regulations for discharging firearms.
I would like to entertain a motion to send Bill 26-25 to Health and Public Safety Committee for public hearing and third reading on April 28th.
So moved.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Clerk Toronto, give 27-25 a first reading.
First reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 13, Article 7, Section 13-81 to repeal the ordinance prohibiting public nuisance noises.
Okay. All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to send 27-25 to Health and Public Safety Committee for public hearing and third reading on April 28th.
So moved.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passes. Clerk Toronto, please give 2825 a first reading.
First reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending the historic preservation ticket surcharge for the Morris Performing Arts Center.
I would like to now entertain a motion to send 2825 to Personnel and Finance Committee for a public hearing and third reading on April 28th.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passes. Any unfinished business? New business.
I'd like to congratulate Clerk Bianca Torado for being selected to the 40 under 40 program. I was a part of that back in the days when I was under 40, but now I'm way over. But it's a great situation. It's a great honor. So I was glad to see that she's a part of that. So congratulations.
Great. Hey. Great. Anybody else? Councilwoman Niskowski.
Yes, thank you. I'm sure you've all by now seen in the news, Amy Hill is moving on to a new job position with the YWCA. So at our next meeting for Transpo, we'll begin looking at how we move forward with her replacement. So that does come through the board. It'll be a process. She's going to be sorely missed. A lot of knowledge there, and she's always been so wonderful. But I do wish her the best moving on to her next endeavor. But I just wanted to update everybody on that. Once I know more information on the process and how they're going to pursue the replacement, I'll let everyone know.
And I would just like to announce that on this Thursday at 5:00, a sponsorship from Notre Dame Federal Credit Union and South Bend Police Department is having Cops in Conversation. It's free food, free opportunity to engage with the police department. It's at the Kingdom Christian Center, 2010 Elwood. It's my church, but it's in the 2nd District. So we want to make sure we invite the community to come out to that. And any of you who would like to ask questions to the police department, you'll have that opportunity. 5:00, 5 to 6. All right. Any also new business, I guess. I had the wonderful opportunity of driving Miss Karen White and Miss Gladys Muhammad to Gary, Indiana for World Civility Day in Gary. And they are two superstar rock stars in the community. And even though they weren't on program, they were on program, and they did a great job representing the city of South Bend. All right, at this point, we're going to the privilege of the floor. Disrespectful, rude, or disruptive speech or actions will not be tolerated. Such speech or actions, as well as verbal attacks on any person, may result in the individual without notice forfeiting the remainder of his or her allotted time. Individuals who wish to address the council must state their name and address, and individuals will limit it to 3 minutes only, and the maximum time limit for the portion of the meeting shall be 30 minutes. Individuals shall not be permitted to address topics which the council has heard previously on the agenda, and the council president may assign a topic raised by an individual during the privilege of the floor to the appropriate council member, or request the city clerk to contact a member of the city administration for review, and topics assigned shall be responded to at the next scheduled council meeting. At this time, is there anyone online or in the chambers that would like to utilize the privilege of the floor? If not, thank you, everyone. At this time, I want to say thank you to everybody who participated. You can give money and get it back, but when you give your time, you can't get that back. And so we appreciate you being part of the process, being engaged. And thank you. God bless you and be safe.